Hey, I am Sarah, and let's do some yoga. Today's practice is wonderful for awakening ourselves when we are finding ourselves in uncertainty or confusion or indecision. This practice is specific to guiding ourselves and awakening ourselves and bringing ourselves into the next step. And it's inspired by the Book of Mormon in Ether, chapters 1 through 5, mostly chapters 2 and chapters 3. But as a little recap for the inspiration, the brother of Jared has been taking the lead in the steps and has been guided by the Lord in taking those steps of taking their people from one land to another land. And it's been an ongoing process for quite some time, and he's been guided and given direction in so many different ways from the Lord. But he gets to a point where he finds himself in uncertainty around a problem that he doesn't seem to have a solution for. And he's confused. He doesn't really know what to do. So he takes with faith that uncertainty to the Lord. And the Lord, instead of simply giving him the next step or telling him how to make that next step, he responds with a question. And he says, "What will ye that I should do that ye may have light in your vessels?" And in short, the brother of Jared is building these vessels and they're going out into the water, and he's trying to figure out how to create light in them. And the Lord responds, "Well, what do you want me to do? What do you need help with?" And he invites, just in this beautiful question, he invites the brother of Jared to slow down, to look within, to create a solution, and then believe that the Lord will take that seed of a solution and magnify it into the fruit that he needs. So let's take that process with us and kind of ask, like, what do we do in uncertainty? What do we do when we're trying to make a big decision or we're trying to figure it all out, right? And I know from personal experience that uncertainty can go like this, and it just spins in the brain, and it's like, I don't know, and here's all the reasons why I don't know, and here's all the reasons why I'm confused. And when we're in that space, there are some tools and steps that we can take to move out of it. And I'm sharing 4 today. Number 1 is to slow down. Get in our bodies, breathe for a minute, and really identify what the actual emotion is that we're feeling. Where is it in our body? What does it feel like? Get still. I believe this process, the art of living awake, is one of the key components for bridging ourselves, loosening that grip that we have on uncertainty that we hold so tight. Number 2, we're going to answer our own questions, and that's what the Lord invites us to do. So when we're saying, I don't know, we do know. And take a minute to pretend that if we did know, how would we answer our own question? And it's most oftentimes just focusing on that very next step. That's it. We still might not know the next 10 steps forward, but we're answering and focusing on that very next step. Number 3, we get to work, which the brother of Jared, I'll kind of pop over to his efforts and work. And then number 4, we involve the Lord. And before we get on the mat, I just wanted to offer in chapter 3, verse 1, it's one of my, I just really jumped out to me in the study as I was pondering these steps, because this is the verse shortly after the Lord has offered that question back to the brother of Jared. And it's kind of like, well, what does he do with that information now? And in the story, he creates 16 small stones, and then he takes those small stones to the Lord and asks the Lord to touch them with his finger and make them have light. And then he can take those stones into the ships or the barges that he's been building. But if we rewind that, there's a little bit of space in between the two, and it says that he went forth unto the mount. And I love this because as he's going to work on the solution, he's taking his physical body on a journey. He's literally taking the next step with his body. I would bet that there was some physical exertion that happened. I would bet that there was some, breathing and exertion, and reminding ourselves that our bodies connecting physically through exercise, however that is for us, can be a beautiful tool for cleansing the mind and reconnecting ourselves to the spirit. And then it says that he did molten out of a rock. And if you look down at the footnotes, it connects it to skill. And so he used skills that he had available to him. And we have skills. We have tools that are available to us. And it's in that process, in that slowing down, that awakening and processing our emotions, I think we can find the answers within for simply taking that next seed, that next step, and then going back to the Lord and saying, help magnify this, which is beautiful. All right, so let's get into the practice today. So maybe we've got uncertainty, confusion, maybe some questions that are with us. And I invite, if that's you, if you're hearing that in your own mind, bring that question, that uncertainty with you onto the mat right now. And let's begin just in a nice seated pose, rolling those shoulders down and back into their pockets. Drawing the inhale, drawing the exhale. And let's just loosen the grip a little bit. Maybe what's spinning in the mind. And if we loosen that grip through the art of living awake. We loosen that grip through our breath and just slowing it all down, drawing inward. And then placing a hand right where we feel the emotion. Give it a name. And breathe into it. Drawing that inhale as if we were inhaling directly to that point and spot in our body that feels that emotion the strongest, whatever that emotion might be for you. And then exhale. Feel that exhale drawing from that very spot that we just filled. You might have an emotion more towards your belly, and the same concept is there. The inhale, and just visualize that breath of life coming to that very tightness. And then exhale, release, and let it go. Wherever that emotion might be, using the breath as a tool to increase our awareness of it can be done anytime, at any place, and for as long as we need. But by slowing things down and letting ourselves feel that physical body, the sensations that emotions bring, that's what loosens them. Continuing with that mindful breath, we walk the hands forward ever so gently, and it's just a few steps, hand over hand. The chest, I can feel mine right away wanting to round. but instead I'm choosing to lengthen through that chest. Beautiful. Just feel that space opening up between each of those vertebrae. And then walking those hands back, circle sweeping those arms out just along the horizon, and then wrapping around, just give yourself a hug. And maybe even let the head draw inward, releasing and opening through that upper back, neck and shoulders. And then releasing and taking one hand to the outside of the knee, stretching and opening to the torso. Centering back up and shifting which leg is in front, walking hand over hand. And just continuing to breathe through that space and that emotion. Not really gripping on to any of those thoughts as they come in. Those thoughts may still be spinning and bouncing all over, and that's fine. We're using the breath to bring our mind to something specific. We're using the breath to focus on our physical body, what it is that we're feeling, where we're feeling it, and then using those thoughts and channeling them specifically. Inhaling, stretch along the horizon, exhale, wrap. Opposite arm comes on top. Give it a hug. Using those thoughts specifically to describe the present moment. The first step in becoming awake is becoming really present with ourself, our body. Not pushing it down, not avoiding it, not buffering it, but just feeling it. Releasing and rotating through. Gentle twist. And just because we love that breath, let's inhale, center, and exhale. Finding that twist. Inhale, center, exhale. Gentle twist. Inhale, center, exhale, gentle twist. Inhale, center, exhale, gentle twist. Beautiful. Channeling ourselves to all fours. So we're rotating to the palms, rotating to the knees, and then check in with those toes. Let's bring them flat for a moment. Inhale. Exhale, round through the spine. And just notice in the practice as we continue with that intentional breath, how does that loosen those areas that might be tight? Releasing, drawing the inhale, coming into cow. And exhale. Much of this practice is focused on the first step of those 4 steps that I shared. Step 1 being slowing down, getting still, awakening ourselves to the present moment. Maybe reminding ourselves, even though we have so much uncertainty, that nothing in this moment has gone wrong. Whatever we need to have, we will have it when we need to have it. Curl those toes under. Lift those knees. And just playing with some of those thoughts. Questioning what comes up when I say those words. Floating table, deep bend in the knees. And shifting forward. Maybe softening into a step that's in a belief that even though we might not have the answer yet, that we will when we need to have it. Even though we might not have that solution yet, but it will come at the exact moment. Reaching back to that nice fire dog. So deep knee bend, lengthening through the spine. And I notice right away that my shoulders and that upper body area is a little tight. So I'm keeping that deep knee bend and allowing the spine to really lengthen and stretch. I feel dynamic energy as if someone were helping to lift that tailbone up towards the sky, and then someone else is extending and pulling those fingertips along the earth. Yes. And then in that space, we walk those hands, adjust ourselves to a true downward facing dog, and just water through the body as we pedal those heels. And again, I notice my shoulders trying to creep and support in this space, and I'm just going to allow that awareness in a minor adjustment. Lift the heels as high as I can and drawing my heart a little more towards the chest. And if that means bending the knees, by all means, let them bend. Gazing at the palms, lifting through those heels, and shifting into a plank. Could we stay on our toes? Yes. Could we lower to the knees? Absolutely. Lower all the way down to the earth. Modified cobra. And then exhale, press into those palms, belly and hips lift first. And we reach back into child's pose. So choose an offering thought. Offer yourself, maybe it's one of those thoughts that I've shared with you already. But choose one right now. Maybe it's everything is figure outable. Maybe it's I'll know what I need to know when I need to know it. Maybe it's I trust the process. Maybe it's I have answers within me. I have the ability already. Feel free to take one of those, borrow one of them, try it on, see how it speaks and sits with you. But also feel free to let any phrase guide you in this practice today. Transitioning back into downward facing dog. Lift those heels nice and high and lower back down. If we think about the brother of Jared climbing that mountain climb happened step by step. His process of learning was a step-by-step process, lifting that right leg up. And I think oftentimes our uncertainty tries to fool us into thinking we need all the steps in front of us before we can even take one. And let's use this practice today symbolically of just that next step. We're just taking that right foot forward. You don't know where I'm taking you next. You don't know how this will end. But just trust. Trust me enough to take that foot forward. Trust yourself enough to breathe into that space. And today, as we have this lunge position, we're actually planting that back hand and we're lifting this inside hand. So it's opposite of the leg in front. I have my right leg forward, so my left hand is lifting, and I'm opening, stacking those shoulders, pressing and feeling that sensation. Beautiful. And then I cement down opposite direction. So I plant left hand by the right foot, lift the right fingertips. And softening through those hands, cementing the back foot, open up, warrior two. Releasing those shoulders, loosening them up just a little bit. Front hand lifts up, reverse warrior. And then we reach into side angle, however it feels for our body today. And maybe that's a nice rest. Forearm to the top of the leg. Maybe it's a deeper extension. From here, our top fingertips guide us forward. We square through the shoulders, we square through the hips, and those top fingertips guide forward and circle, and we hinge ourselves to warrior three. So I've squared through those hips. The back leg might choose to stay connected, or maybe lift off. But it's interesting in bringing our minds to a challenging practice like this, where we're really working all those parts of the body simultaneously. It forces our minds to become present. We've got to think about not falling over. We've got to think about those shifts as they're trying to occur. Come all the way up and feel your mountain pose. Breathe in that space. Beautiful. Now you're at the top of your mat. I turned for just a moment facing you. But you'll lift that left leg, the one that was just behind in that warrior three position, and bring that knee right up in front of you. Take the right hand across and reach long, as if someone's grabbing those left fingertips behind you. From here we work in reverse, and we teeter ourselves back to that warrior three. We step our back foot down, open ourselves, warrior two, and then cartwheel ourselves forward, plant the hands, step the foot back, downward facing dog. From here we shift those heels up towards the sky, transition into plank, exhale, release back. Inhale to plank. Exhale, release back. And then let's take the right hand towards the left leg. And I invite you to just reach that hand anywhere that feels good for you. Find that space. Trust this three-legged dog. Trust the balance. Let that hand back. Bend the knees. Reach the right hand up towards the sky and thread the needle underneath. Resting onto the right shoulder, reaching the left fingertips towards the sky. And really letting the belly just breathe. Awakening the stretching, the twisting sensations, unraveling what might be raveled so tight in our bodies. And as we do that, we invite our minds to unravel what might be raveled so tight. And maybe even when those thoughts creep in of, I don't know how to do that, or I don't know what's next, we instead offer ourselves the idea that we do know. Child's pose, and I've rotated so that when we come into this next side, you can see where I'm going without looking at me backwards. So we're lifting that left leg up to the sky, pulling the knee towards the chest, and bringing it in front. Left hand plants to the outside of the left leg. Right fingertips reach up. And we rotate left fingertips into the sky. From here, those hands plant. They soften as if we had a tennis ball between those fingertips. We press into the feet, engaging the core, rotate and open, warrior two. Palms rotate up, reverse warrior, and then we reach and extend ourselves to side angle. Noticing that teeter-totter we take with our body. Sometimes we need to teeter-totter or swing the pendulum of thinking a little differently than how we might have been thinking before. Shifting up energy, and if we spend that time finding all the reasons why we don't know, then we offer a little time spending the reasoning why we do know. Or we go to the land of pretend that if we did, what would our answer be? Those right fingertips guide forward and sweep back, square through the hips, square through the shoulders, warrior three. Plant the feet, mountain pose. Mountain pose is available to us genuinely anytime throughout our day, and it's a beautiful grounding practice where we can lift those toes and just feel ourselves connected to the earth. It is a beautiful tool for getting really present with where we might be, and we're lifting and engaging, opening through that heart just in a few breaths. Right knee lifts, left hand comes across, and we reach behind. And then pendulum swing to warrior three again. Stepping back in reverse, open up warrior two, and cartwheel everything forward. Planting those hands, reaching the leg back. Shifting through that plank position and downward facing dog, offering the idea that maybe that shift uses the knees. Staying in that downward facing dog position, and this time taking the opposite hand to the leg, finding that touch point wherever it speaks to us. Trusting that even in this seemingly awkward space, right, where we're not perfectly balanced, but we trust that breath. We place and engage again. Lower those knees, lifting this time the left arm towards the sky. Thread the needle underneath. Reaching those right fingertips long. Softening the tops of the feet onto the earth. Beautiful. Bending that right hand, pressing into it. And this time coming to all fours. And for just a minute, wring out that spine. Anything that might feel tight. Just give yourself permission to move whichever direction. Softens, loosens, breathes into maybe those tight places and spaces again. And then adjusting our hands, curling the toes under. And again, finding downward facing dog. This time we lift the right leg. And we pull that knee towards the chest, traveling to pigeon. Beautiful. Now as much as that glute wants to roll over and rest, we're keeping it lifted. The front leg, we can even extend those toes more along, being parallel to the front of the mat. There's no sharp pinches, pains, or pressures in pigeon. Being mindful that if that is the case for the knee today, please adjust. Take those modifications as you know best to take them for your body. And maybe we travel forward in this space, not ever downward, but we travel forward. Maybe we stay right where we are, possibly stacking those hands over one another. Where we end up really matters less than just reminding that we're here for the journey. We're here for the breath. We're here for the sensations. We're all in for all of it. And what that looks like right now on your very own mat, your very own space, how that compares to how I happen to look right now on my mat in my space, it doesn't matter. Because the more that we step into ourselves and the unique space and place that we have, that unique thumbprint that we have in the world, that's where we come into those skills, just like the brother of Jared reaching back. That's where he was able to slow down, climb that mountain, and access skills that he had available. He had learned, he had had interest in at some point in his life. So sometimes if we slow down and get a little curious, like, what is it that I like to learn? What is it that I have learned in my life? Maybe get curious of what is it I'd like to create with that learning. Sometimes just opening the door of thinking about those spaces and places opens the idea, the offering for that next step, even if it has nothing to do with what it is that we might be thinking about. Okay, friends, we're taking 2 more breaths in this space. And as we breathe, just take an inventory. How have those emotions processed in the body? How has that opened space for the mind to still itself just a little bit? You see me rotating out, and together we're going to work ourselves with those backs onto the mat, finding a safe space and place to get there. For just a moment, we will feel bridge. So we're taking those heels close to the glutes, planting the palms into the earth, and then lifting, beginning with the tailbone. Up, up, up. Two more intentional breaths, inhaling and exhaling through the nose. And then releasing down, one vertebrae at a time, coming into that final Shavasana, corpse pose. Palms to the sky, release those shoulders down and away from the ears. And we're just coming into these last moments of stillness with intention, with purpose, no expectation. So we're not expecting to have the answer. We're not judging any ideas or thoughts as they do come up, whether that's in this moment on the mat or off the mat later. And we're not comparing this specific uncertainty with uncertainty we may have had in the past. Each one is unique and offers its own way of being solved. But our intention and our real purpose for being here is to be here now. Maybe a question like, what's important now comes up. And we just answer it. maybe we take a meditative question like, what can I do today? How do I want to show up today? But let's just bring ourselves to today, the here, the now. And as much as the brain is trying to jump us 2 or 10 steps forward, we inhale and we say, yes, but I'm here now. In this moment, I am breathing. In this moment, I am safe. And I know that the Lord trusts me to take the next step. And I'm learning to trust Him. Today I take these moments to create space, to let that process unfold. Not to look at the end, not to button everything up with a bow and have it completed on my timeline. But I will create what is in my sphere of influence today by just taking that next step. It's small, it's simple, it's manageable, and it's woven into the details of today. Taking the thumb and pressing it along each fingertip, feeling the presence of touch. Inhaling the nose. Recognizing whatever smell exists around you, feeling the presence of smell. Opening the eyes, feeling the presence of sight, the colors, the depths, the textures. Listening to the sound of my voice, but also listening to whatever might be in your present environment. Awakening the presence of hearing. Shifting over to one side, bending those knees, cradling the arm, and then traveling up to a seated position. I thank you for joining me in this practice of growing space, of living awake, particularly in those moments of uncertainty. The light within me honors the light within you. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next week.